welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Juliet Turnbull, and I'm the founder and CEO of 2 to 3 Days. 2 to 3 Days is like my third child. I'm a woman on a mission to help solve a social and economic problem in our country, which is that too many amazing women, all of you here today, want to be supported to pursue your careers working flexibly. So I set up this business a few years ago to help solve that problem. And I'm proud to say that we are nurturing and growing the largest online community of business and professional women who all want to pursue their careers working flexibly. And then what we do is we connect you directly to companies large and small, such as Pinsent Masons, who are all super keen to find you and hire you to work in their organizations. So a very warm welcome to all of you, and to a very warm welcome to Pinsent Masons, who we're hosting this event with today. I have had the pleasure of working with Pinsent Masons for nearly 2 years and talk regularly to Claire Vassy, who you're going to hear from in a minute. And ladies, I can't tell you how much and how important it is to Pinsent Masons, and how engaged they are and passionate they are about creating a truly inclusive and diverse workplace, and how they really want to support all their staff to work flexibly on terms that work for them, which is why today's event is called Work Your Way. The next hour is all about you in the audience. We have crafted and hopefully put together the next 30 minutes of really interesting information that is purely designed to help attract you to want to come and talk to Pinsent Masons. But also, in a safe setting in the next hour, I want you to feel able to ask any question that you want to, however ridiculous you might think it is. We want you in this very safe space to be able to ask that question. And so please put your questions into the chat box. I will either ask your questions as we go through the next 45 minutes, or we can have Q&A at the end. But please don't click off in an hour's time thinking, darn, I wish I'd asked that one question, because I really would love you to ask that question today. So today we have 5 members of the Pinsent Masons team who are located all over the UK, and they'll tell you a bit about themselves in a minute. And what we're going to do is we're going to lead from one to the other over the next sort of 30 odd minutes. And then, as I said, we can have Q&A at the end. But they have got lots to talk about. So my job, I need permission from all of you at Pinsent Masons that if you are chatting too much, if I start to wave my hands frantically, I need you to stop so we can pass the baton on to somebody else in your team, because they're not all sitting in the same offices. They are all over the UK. So that's my job, is to corral you all. So I have permission to corral you. We're going to start and kick off by hearing from Claire Vassy, who is head of lateral recruitment at Pinsent Masons. And Claire has over 20 years experience in talent acquisition. She's also the mother to 2 girls, and she sits on the Pinsent Masons Global Inclusion Board. And I can absolutely advocate for this when I tell you that Claire is absolutely 100% passionate about supporting women to pursue their careers working flexibly at Pinsent Masons. So Claire, a very warm welcome to you. Then we're going to hear from Hamad Akhtar, who is a partner at Pinsent Masons. He specializes in advising insurers and reinsurers and financial institutions on corporate transactions. Hamad is also a champion of diversity and inclusion, and he is the lead for Project Sun. And we're going to learn more about what Project Sun means later on. Then we have Rachel Webster. Hello, Rachel. Rachel joined Pinsent Masons just over a year ago, which we thought would be very interesting for her to share her story with you. She's also a senior associate in the projects team in Leeds, and she's a mum to Jasper, who is just 4 years of age. Hello, Rachel. And then we have Claudia Goodhall. Hello, Claudia. Claudia is head of the PR and has over 15 years experience in reputation management and media relations. She is a mother to a toddler, and she's about to go on maternity leave. So she knows what it's all about, having, maybe not too many sleepless nights, but sleepless nights and juggling her full-on job at Pinsent Masons. So Tia, you're going to hear from Tia at the end. Tia is the lateral recruitment manager and works with Claire. She has over 15 years experience in the legal sector, and she's part of the firm's ethnic minority steering group, which aims to level the playing field for everyone. So a warm welcome to everybody from Pinsent Masons. And as I said to everybody in the audience, the next 45 minutes is all about you. So please start putting in your questions as soon as you can, and we will crack on. So Claire, I'm quite scared to ask Claire this question because I know that shutting her up is going to be quite hard because she is so passionate. But I'm going to ask her a very wide and opening question. Claire, why are you so passionate about your job and helping to advance women's careers at Pinsent Masons?
Thank you, Juliet. You're right, it is hard to stop me once I start. And I have got a lot I want to kind of say this morning to this audience. So thank you everybody that's joined. Why am I so passionate? It's a really big question. I think there's two key things. And what I want to do in my kind of section here is I kind of want to give you a few facts and stats about Pinsent Masons, but I don't want us to focus on kind of what you might be able to find on the website and, you know, how many offices we have and things like that. You know, we are a huge global law firm. I think 27 offices in 15 countries. You know, those are our impressive stats and who we are. But what I want to try and get out of today and on our other panel members that are here is really the authenticity around Pinsent Masons and our culture and what it's really like to work here. And the reason I'm passionate about it is probably for two main reasons. One being that I am, you know, a working mother here at Pinsent Masons. And the other is because I recognise how important an inclusive workplace is. But overarching that is because of Pinsent Masons and what I have been able to do and achieve here because of the kind of business that we are. And I think that's what the message I really want to get over to the audience today. The reason I do what I do is because I want others to see what you're able to do and what you're able to achieve by joining a business like this. You know, looking at who we are, our purpose-led business, the values that we live by, and the culture. You know, I am kind of a working example of how that is able to be achieved here. Looking at kind of the values that we have here, you know, approachable. We have three main values that I want to just tell you about. And approachable is the first. And that's not just talking about how we're a friendly business, because we are. But that comes through about how we are supportive and we give advice. But we're also very open to anybody approaching about new ideas that they might have. The another value we have is bold, and that talks around kind of the ideas that we have, taking calculated risks, and trusting the experience and experts that we have. And I think for me, I'm able to give those specific examples of how that's worked for me in the last 15 years that I've been with the business. The support I've had from whether it's my management or the firm, the current COO who's been a clear sponsor of what the lateral recruitment team has tried to achieve, and how we've been bold in some of the things that we've done, how ideas that we've had and we've taken them forward, and disabled my team to grow and my team to, I guess, develop their service to the business and kind of adapt our talent attraction methods within the market. And then connected is another of our values, and that's about our working relationships, the strong relationships. And this is probably a key thing and one of the main reasons why I remain at Pinsent Masons, our people. And that's how that feeds into our connected value. The relationships we have either with our colleagues or our clients or our suppliers. And Juliet, you being one of my suppliers, you know, 2 years in, you know, having a great relationship, and that comes through from kind of our open dialogue and our purpose-led business and how all of those values come into how we operate as a business and how we deal with everybody. I think those working relationships with people is also really important. Tia, who's on the call too, has had the, I'd say, benefit of working with me for the last 15 years as well. She might not agree, but it builds strength in what we do. And, you know, coming back to your question is why I'm passionate is because the business has enabled me to develop and work the way that I want to. And going from personal experience, and I wanted to touch on some of the benefits that we have here at Pinsent Masons. We have a policy and benefits list as long as my arm. But from a personal perspective, what I've been able to see, I've had 2 maternities here, and I joined the firm 15 years ago with 2 of the people in the team, and I've been able to develop and progress through those years. My role as head of the lateral recruitment team didn't exist 5 years ago. It was a role that was developed within the team. And I suppose kind of, working through the years and working through with those people, I've had those maternity leaves, and I have been able to come back and be a returner and be supported and be developed, because the connectivity and the approachability that we have from my own experience has enabled me to be where I am today. So I want to try and get over that kind of real authenticity of, what it's like to work at Pinsent Masons, and being a true advocate of what that looks like. And looking at that, in terms of other things, shared parental leave, our new carers policy, that's a great thing that we have that allows you to have additional days at work to care for either children or other immediate family members. That was a new policy that came in for us, and that was reflective of the kind of business that we are, to create this kind of inclusive culture that enabled people to do the things that they need to do that matters to them. And I think, coming to the name of the call, work your way, there are so many things that the business do to enable people to do that, and that's either through our policies, through people's personal experience. But looking kind of more in detail about what that looks like, I guess flexibility, and that's what 2 to 3 days talk to us a lot about. What that means for us essentially is, if it's important to you, it's important to us. And we have different examples of people on this call who are able to really talk about their own experiences. If it means I need support coming back from having my children, or if I need to work part-time, or I need to change the hours in which I work, the business adapts to doing that. And that is really felt through the culture of the business in what we have. I don't know if kind of the answer's quite fully your question, Juliet, in kind of why I'm passionate.
I think you have. I think, and what I would say, we have, as I've had the privilege of getting to know you guys, all I can say to all of you on this call today is that what Claire is saying is the absolute truth. The culture of Pinsent Masons absolutely shines through. They're a global professional services firm with law at its heart. They have, demanding clients, interesting work, but they all pull together as a team. And everybody I've had the privilege of speaking to and meeting all says the same. So I can't, support and echo everything that Claire has said today. So is there any questions before we go any further? Because Claire has said a lot. Is there anybody that would like to put up their hand and ask a question to Claire before we move on to Hamid?
If nobody had any questions, that's fine. I think that the other point I would like to add is, being someone who works in the business operations side of the business, and as you say, we're a professional business with law at its core, the opportunities for people that aren't lawyers, having experienced, colleagues who I've seen join the firm, like I have a more junior level, the breadth of roles and the seniority that we have. We have true strategic roles that sit within our business operations part of the business. We are seen as really supporting the business truly. I sit within the HR department. We have there's the finance team, there's the business development team, and all the different kind of roles that sit with that. You can have legal project management. We have business development managers, financial planning, procurement managers. Again, full lists of our vacancies are always available, but it kind of gives the true aspect of kind of how everybody is valued at a business where essentially we are a law firm. Yeah. And again, that comes through that, how people are valued.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a bit more. Tia is going to join us at the end to talk a bit more about the specific roles. But now I'd like to hand over to Hamid. And Hamid is, we've given him as the partner of Pinsent Masons to deal with the really nitty-gritty elephant in the room question, which across the industry, Hamid, across private practice has a horrendous reputation of at a senior level of being very male dominated, and across the industry it has lost some amazing women. I'm sure there are some amazing women that are sitting on this call today who have not been supported to be able to advance their careers with some degree of flexibility because they want more time at home. So Hamid, I'm gonna, you as I think you might be the only token male in this room today with all these women. But I would love you to really tackle and answer this really thorny issue, which isn't just a problem for Pinsent Masons, it's across the industry, of what specifically Pinsent Masons are doing to attract and retain women at a senior level when most women struggle to stay in private practice at a senior level. So Hamid, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Juliet, and good morning, everyone. It's really good to be here with you. Before I answer the question, let me diverge in two respects. First one is I'm just going to share with you a conversation that I had yesterday with a colleague who joined us as a partner in our Johannesburg office just at the start of this week. And I had a Teams call with her yesterday just to not the start of this week, she joined at the start of the month. I had a Teams call with her yesterday just to touch base and see how she's settling in. And she's worked in a number of other international law firms over the years, probably, if I remember correctly, about 4 or 5 different law firms, and now she joined the Pinsent Masons family. One of the things I started off the conversation yesterday after we had exchanged niceties, just said, look, how does it feel? How do you feel you're settling in? She said to me, you know what, Howard, I've worked in a number of law firms. As part of my recruitment, you all said that Pinsent Masons is different. And she said, my God, is it different? She said, it feels very different from the other international law firms I've worked in. I asked her to elaborate, and she said, look, you all said we're very nice, but everyone says they're very nice. But she said, actually, the culture immediately is one of inclusivity, support, people wanting to help you. And she said, I've never really experienced that in the other law firms that I've worked in. And for me, that was really wonderful to hear, that was those first impressions when someone has coming into the business are all the things that, Claire has mentioned, that I'm sure my colleagues will mention as well, that we hold so highly about our organization. So that was divergence number one. Divergence number two is really just to put in a bit of context this issue around gender in the legal profession in the UK. And you're absolutely right, Julia. The legal profession in the UK, particularly, I would say, the big international law firms, have not had a great reputation around gender or indeed other strands of diversity over the years. For a number of years now, the profession has actually welcomed every year more women than men into the profession. So roughly about 60% of the people that enter the profession now are women, not men. Is that 60% fairly represented throughout the ranks within law firms? No, it's not. No, it's not. Absolutely, it isn't. And that's something that we've been working hard on, and others have been working hard on as well. And look, by no means is the job done, and it will never be done, because actually, as with all strands of diversity, you've got to keep pushing and pushing hard, and that's something which we're very committed to doing. Just to give you a sense of where Pinsent Masons is on that journey, if we look at the very senior ranks within our business, and so, if we look at our board, 50% of our board are women. We currently have a vacancy. That vacancy may or may not, of course, be taken by a woman, so that could edge at more than 50%. But right now, 50% of our board are women. We have, I think Claire mentioned, we've got, 26, 27 officers dotted around the globe. About 50% of the heads of those offices are women. We look at our various other kind of committees that we have of our executive, our nominations committee, for example, 60% of our nominations committee are women. There are other committees within our business at a senior level where we don't have such strong representation, where the representation might be 25%, might be 30%. But the reason why I share these percentages with you is to give you an indication of some of the progress that we've made in relation to this, and about making sure that talent, regardless of what shape and size that talent comes in, has an opportunity to progress in a fair way at Pinsent's. And I think we do things differently, and it's one of the things which I really value, and probably value the most at the firm, that we're constantly trying to push the envelope and try to tackle sometimes quite difficult issues head on. And so, one of the things which, the legal profession has not had a great reputation for is, we've often used, I would say, as an excuse, that actually, look, client demands often mean people might have to work 24/7. That's not very compatible with family life, etc., etc. And you all know how the story goes. That disproportionately has hit women, and that, frankly, is not acceptable. It's not, it never has been acceptable. It particularly isn't acceptable now. There is no reason, there's no good reason why the talent that we have in our business, regardless of of gender or any other D&I factor, shouldn't have an equal opportunity to progress. And I think we have made very significant headway with that. I should say, because I think it's right to say, that we're not the only law firm that has made progress on this. And if you look at very senior management in international law firms, there are a number of the top international law firms like Pinsent Masons who have a female senior partner or managing partner. Our managing partner, Laura Cameron, is obviously a woman. Our senior partner is a man. But if you look at a number of the big international law firms, we now have women, thankfully, being represented in the most senior of roles. And I think that will also help make a difference to the gender journey, but also just D&I generally, the importance of role models. Just in terms of how we have gone about making that difference, look, there's a whole host of things which, Claire has mentioned some of them. But I think one of the things which I personally have found really valuable and really important is the constant repeating, whether it's for the lawyers in our business or the non-lawyers in our business, the constant support that we can give to all of our colleagues around these opportunities are available, and the constant reminder that person's personal circumstances, whether it's because they're a parent, whether it's because they're a carer, whatever it may be, the business should be able to flex, and we should try to flex. We may not always be able to do it enough, but we should certainly, our mindset should be one of, we will try to flex to accommodate the needs of the individual. And I think that is the mindset that we take to these issues. It's the mindset that we've taken when we developed our family leave policy, for example, which, I would say was kind of probably one of the most progressive ones that was introduced of all the international law firms. We've also been progressive in terms of setting out really ambitious targets, not only with gender, but in relation to race and ethnicity. You mentioned, Juliet, in the introduction, that I am involved in something called SUN. And SUN is the kind of umbrella term that we give to our focus on race and ethnicity, and that's something that I lead on behalf of the firm. And so, we have set really ambitious and aggressive targets, public targets for that, because again, it's important to us that we are seen by our people. And that's the most important thing, by our people, not just the market. We are seen by our people as always trying to do the right thing and the thing which is in their best interests. And that is something which I think is tremendously important, because without that mindset and approach, I think initiatives just end up being initiatives. And they've got to be supported by a culture which is very much targeted at trying to make things work and trying to understand personal circumstances, and so policies can be adapted to suit the individual rather than the individual trying to work around the policy. So look, there's quite a lot there. There's a lot more that I could say, but I'm probably guilty, maybe like some of my other colleagues, of I could talk for fun. So I will pause there. I will very happily take questions about anything that I've said, or indeed anything else as well.
may I ask a question, Hamid?
Please, please.
Not only have you got Project Sun, but you've also got Project Sky that you support Andrea with. Andrea is an amazing partner at Pinsent Mason, and we've got a spotlight series coming out that I recently talked to Andrea. She's a partner in the Belfast office, and she's just phenomenal. But Hamid is her right-hand man in Project Sky. Could you just tell everybody a bit about Project Sky, Hamid, before we go any further?
Yeah, sure. So, similar to Sun on race and ethnicity, Sky has been more long running, and it's the kind of our umbrella term to our focus on gender. And it's been up and running for well over a decade now. We think it has been very successful to date, but we are currently reviewing it to make sure that we are continuing to push the envelope, as I mentioned. I got more actively involved in it probably about 2 years ago, maybe a bit longer. And part of the reason why I got more involved in it is because, being very open with you, I was getting more and more frustrated about the pace of progress, not just within our law firm, but within the industry. And I've kind of very strongly felt that there is such an injustice in the legal profession where, as I say, you've got, just under 2/3 of the people entering the profession are women, but that's not reflected in the more senior ranks. And I just find that massively unjust. And then I look at my own team, which I lead. I have a very large number of kind of senior women in that team who are amongst the most brilliant, talented people that we have in the business. And it really matters to me that they, and I've spoken to a lot about balancing their family lives, other commitments that may have, other interests that they may have with their work commitments. And so it was that kind of desire to make a change that I started getting more actively involved in working with Andrea to kind of make sure that we continue to push the envelope in relation to gender. So one of the things that we did, for example, last year was that we did a roadshow, a virtual roadshow of all of our offices to talk both about gender and also about race and ethnicity, and to talk to all of our colleagues. And one of the key messages that we convey to all of our colleagues is, look, progression on gender or progression on race and ethnicity is not just an issue for senior management. We can't hide behind policies. We can't hide behind senior management and say it's down to them to set the tone. It's down to them to set the policy. Day to day, we all have a responsibility through our interactions with colleagues, through the tone that we set, through how we appraise people, how we give them feedback, how we involve them to make sure that we are most inclusive.
That's brilliant, Hamid. On that note, I'm going to grab back the microphone. And without further ado, we're going to hand straight over to Rachel Webster, who is a real live role model at Pinsent Masons. Rachel is a senior associate in the project team in Leeds. She joined just over a year ago. And she, as I said before, she's a mum to a little boy called Jasper. Rachel, I would really love to know, and I'm sure all the other people in the audience today would love to know, why did you choose Pinsent Masons? I'm sure you could have gone to other competitors, but you chose Pinsent. So can you share with us your story over a year ago, what it was about the whole, from the moment you went for the interview, saw the job, for the interview process, what was it that made you say, yes, please, I'd love to join Pinsent?
So for me, the sort of first attraction was the quality of the people that work here and the quality of the work that's done, because I've worked long and hard to become a solicitor and I want to do the best work available. But I also have to balance that with wanting to also be the best mum that I can be. And that's not easy to do. And there's always a trepidation about going to a large firm that does some fantastic work with some great clients. Can I really have it all? And so the interview process really proved to me that absolutely Pinsent Masons was the place that I could do that. My interview was conducted by the partner in my team and another lady called Melanie Grimmett, who's the global head of energy across Pinsent Masons. She works out of the Leeds office. I see her quite regularly, and she is a huge role model for me in terms of, you know, she is one of the top people within this firm. She has 2 children and she's made it, and it shows that you really can have it all. And it was really clear to me that the firm's culture was one where I would be able to do all the things that I wanted to do professionally, excel professionally, get exposure to the work that I want to do, while still being able to go home and do bedtime and dinner and all the other things that go with trying to be the best mum that you can be. And there was just a couple of sort of examples I wanted to really touch on in terms of how that's worked for me in practice. So I was very upfront in my interview and said, you know, I have these requirements and I need to work a 4-day week. And there was no hesitation. There was no question about it. It wasn't looked into in any great detail. It was a, yeah, tick, you know, no discussion had. So first off the pass, great, get what I sort of need in terms of managing my childcare. Track forward a few weeks and sitting in the team meeting, and I'd arranged a day holiday because my parents, who had my little boy that particular day, were away or, you know, doing something that they shouldn't be doing instead of looking after my son. And so I'd taken a day's leave, thinking that that was what was required. And I mentioned in the team meeting, I said, I'm off on holiday on X day, just because of childcare reasons. And immediately all the partners in the team said, you don't need to take a day holiday for that. We have something called carers leave, which I can take up to 5 days in the year for any childcare related issues. It doesn't come off my holiday entitlement, but it allows me to step in those circumstances where my usual childcare arrangements are not available for whatever reason that might be. And the sort of last thing I wanted to touch on in the brief time that we've got just now is I have just been promoted at Pinsent Masons. So as of the 1st of May, I've been promoted to a senior associate. And that's a process that involves interviews and business cases and all the things you would expect in a big corporate law firm. But the support that I had throughout the entire process was absolutely amazing. And I've been here a relatively short time. I've been exposed to some fantastic work, which has meant that my journey to senior associate has been easy to navigate because I've been able to demonstrate my abilities and been supported to do that. And everyone within the team and beyond was so supportive of that process. So I'm here to say you can have it all. And in Pinsent Masons, I'm managing to get that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And now we're going to beam across to Claudia. Hello, Claudia. Claudia, you have been with Pinsons for quite a long time. And you've managed to, you know, start a family and grow your family. So can you just share with us your story? And you're not a lawyer, you're in the PR team. What your journey's been like and how Pinsent Masons have really been able to support you to be the best person that you can be.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. I have been here a long time, 9 or 10 years, I think I'm at now. And that's really strange to say because it just feels like it's flown by. And I suppose what's really kept me here is probably 2 things. So there's the professional development element of it. And as you probably picked up from Rachel, it's the people. I'm not someone who can work somewhere if I'm not happy. I need to be happy in my environment to flourish. And I just found that Pinsent Masons is just really a place where I'm able to do that. And I think it kind of came across right from day one. Like there's always this sense here of being valued. And so when I first joined the firm, I was a junior PR person. And I remember the shock and the horror of being invited to present to a group of partners for the sector that I was working with. And, you know, my immediate thought was, these are very busy and important people. Like, what do they want to see me for? And the response that I got from them kind of really just set the tone of what life is like at Pinsent Masons. You know, they were really engaged, they were collaborative, and more importantly, like they really supported me in my professional development. So they helped me set ambitious targets and they motivated me to achieve them. And when I didn't achieve them, it wasn't a problem. It was, you know, let's help support and develop you further. And that is really kind of what life is like working here. You know, it's about lifting people up and helping them achieve what they can achieve. And I think, I mean, over the time I've been here now, I've been promoted a few times, 2 or 3 times, I think it is. And one of those was whilst I was on maternity leave recently.
Amazing.
Yeah, which is not uncommon. You know, I've heard of quite a few people that have been promoted whilst they're on maternity leave, and quite often you will hear people have that conversation of, oh no, you know, I'm going to go on mat leave, which means I'm going to get forgotten about and overlooked, and I'm going to have to wait until the next year or whatever it is. And it's just not the case at all. So I think that's really encouraging. But, you know, in addition to that, I'd say just the job role that I have been doing over time has really evolved as well. So I work with so many people across so many offices. And I think the thing that really I remember so clearly when I was interviewing to join Pinsent Masons was that the person interviewing me said to me, Pinsent Masons is a large firm with like a small firm feel. And that really couldn't be any more true. I mean, you're like, you could be working with around 4,000 people, but you know, the people that I engage with from all over the world on a daily basis, I feel like I know. It really does feel like one large family, which is a lovely feeling. But yeah, so I think, you know, just on the whole, it's for me, it's I haven't had a chance to get bored because there is always scope to be doing more. There's always opportunity to broaden your horizons. And I've always felt really supportive in terms of how I'm having to now operate. And
is there, can I just step in here? Is there an example, Claudia? Because we all know that life is messy, life is complicated, and life throws curveballs at us all. And you get lots of curveballs when you are especially a mum to a toddler.
Yeah,
they are not predictable at all. Can you just think of some live example where, you know, everything was sort of imploding at home and it was a bit of a nightmare and you just waved your flag, and how you felt totally supported just to be mum and take care of the home fires?
Oh, it happens every day. Do you know what? I was supposed to be in the office today, and instead I was at doctor's surgery this morning with my little girl. So now I'm at home. But yeah, it happens all the time. I mean, we had earlier was it December, when there was loads of snow and I had to work with someone on my team. Both of our kids' schools and nurseries were closed. And, you know, it was a case of, oh, I can't work this time. What can you do? And we split the day here and there and we figured it out. And, you know, I do a 4-day week and it's technically Monday to Thursday, but I do my 4-day week when I can do my 4-day week. Like, it doesn't really matter when you do it. And I think that's partly because Pinsent Masons is a very mature and like trusting organization. If you're there to get your job done, you're getting it done. And whether that happens to be after you've put the kids to bed, or you've had to take a couple of hours out in the afternoon to do the school play, or to, you know, whatever it is that you have to do, it's never a problem. And I think for me, that is the key thing, because, you know, it is that, you know, when you're a mum, you're constantly juggling. And the one thing I don't feel is the pressure of what will work say, what will work think, because it isn't. I never have to worry about it. It's a case of just letting people know.
That's amazing. I think the answer say you're not worried about what work says, and that you can just prioritize your family is phenomenal. I just want to say, for those of you who have put questions into the chat, I have clocked them all and I am going to ask them. So I would encourage you all to bring your questions in, and then I will turn into chat DJ and answer all your questions. The more the merrier, please. But I now would like to bring Tia on, because this is all great. This is all great, but we all want to know, when you leave today's event, you'll go on to hopefully our site, or you'll go directly onto Pinsent Masons career site, and then you'll look at that job description and you'll go, well, I can do that job, but what happens next? What happens when I apply? So Pinsent's have about over 200 vacancies on there that they're looking to hire all across the world, but predominantly, I think, I don't know what percentage, Claire, are in the UK. Majority of them in the UK, aren't they?
Yes, majority of our roles are in the UK, but my team does cover the business on a global scale. And we have another manager based out in Sydney. But yes, Tia's team, we have two separate teams. One covers all our business operations role, and so we have a dedicated team that can deal with applications or candidate queries. So one deals with business operations, and Tia's team deals with all the lawyer vacancies. So, you know, after today, what does it mean? I mean, you can find our jobs just about anywhere, because we make that the case. They're on the 2 to 3 Days website, they're on our website, they're on LinkedIn. I want to make sure if you want to apply here, you can do very readily. And that goes through to a person. There's no auto screening. That goes through to somebody who will have a group or sector focus that sits in those teams. So they work very closely with the groups that are hiring. So they really understand what the teams are looking for, either by group or sector or by location. So there's someone at the end of kind of your CV or your query that will deal with that. So you can apply online. It goes through to obviously a candidate tracking system, and we deal with every individual application as they come through. If you wanted to ask a query, then you can contact myself or Tia, and that will be dealt with on an individual basis. We wouldn't probably offer that service probably widely on our website because we'd get a lot of emails. But for the purpose of today, if somebody on this call or somebody spoke to somebody else and they wanted to refer someone they know to come and talk to us, we would be very open to having that conversation, whether it's me, whether it's Tia, whether it's a member of my team. We're always happy to hear what people might want to know, whether it's about a job or a little bit more about Pinsent Masons. So there's a careers@Pinsent Masons email address that people can contact, or they can literally go and have a look at any of the roles that we're recruiting for. And when I say that, they are pretty vast in what we're recruiting for.
Claire, on that, would it be a good idea for those people who want to ask a specific question that they email the careers@Pinsent Masons email address, which is
careers@pinsentmasons.com.
and we'll make sure we put that in the notes, and then just say that you've been on the 2 to 3 days work your way webinar, so that gives Claire and Tia a heads up where you're coming from, and then they'll know what's facilitated that question.
Absolutely.
We've had 2 questions about Vario, Vario, and I don't know about Vario.
It doesn't sit within my team, but what I can tell you about, there's a team. Well, Vario is our non-legal fee earning group that sits within the business, and they have various teams. So our legal project management sits in there, our managed legal services, which is our paralegal hub, but also it has flexible services, and that's where we have freelance lawyers kind of join that hub. And we have a team that works in the business that might send them on secondments to our clients. So that's where clients will come to us and say, I need a commercial lawyer for however long, and we will have a hub of people. So it works really well if people want that true flexible working in terms of perhaps contract work is probably what it's probably more known for. So that's where people don't want a permanent job to be aligned to one particular firm. But it means that people come into us, they go through a screening process, we kind of almost hire them into the hub, and then we're able to give our clients that almost Pinsent Masons seal of approval of people that we can then send out to clients and kind of manage the relationship for them. That's flexible services within Vario.
So that's one of the questions I've been asked. And do you have to work exclusively for Vario, or could you be a contractor for other companies as well?
It kind of works that you're kind of working for Pinsent Masons, but we might place you into different clients.
Right.
You might get the opportunity to go and work at other kind of in-house places. So no, you wouldn't necessarily work at one place. That said, you might get a contract that's for 2 years, or you may well be positioned into Pinsent Masons. So that is almost the ultimate flexible working option, where you might work a number of different places for various amounts of time in all different guises, if that gives you a flavour.
Yeah.
So if people want more information about Vario, contact me and I will put you in touch with the right people that can talk to you about that.
And maybe, because it's a learning for me, maybe we could do something about Vario directly, get your team from Vario to talk to us as well.
Yeah.
At a separate time. But anyway, I have some other questions here. We have somebody who would like to know, they're a lawyer, they would just like to work term time only. Is that a possibility?
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that we have people in business operations that work term time only. So that's something I'd have to revert back to. I don't know if we have any examples of that in the business. It's certainly a potential.
But if somebody wanted to join Pinsent Masons and they wanted to work term time only, would they be encouraged and feel confident to bring that up in the first interview?
I think, yeah, something like that, we'd probably want to know when they apply. And I think what's probably worth mentioning here is that it comes down to the talent of the individual. And if we think somebody is going to add value to Pinsent Masons and be happy with us, then we're absolutely going to have those conversations.
Okay, so they shouldn't be nervous or scared not to put that forward, and like everything, we always have to demonstrate our value when we are applying for a job.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have another question here. We have a lady who she spends up to 2 months in the US twice a year because she's got to take care of an elderly parent, and she is looking to work 2 to 3 days a week, but would like a fully remote job so that she can dip between America and England.
Oh wow, this is going well out my remit of money here.
That one, Claire. I can probably help with that one. Actually.
Can you help, Hamid? We have global mobility that deal with this.
No. Look, I'm very happy to help with that one. So look, we do have people that work remotely. One of the challenges that we have, and frankly, all big businesses have this, is navigating there's two things that we need to navigate. One is the tax consequences of having someone working remotely in the US, because one of the challenges that we have, particularly with the US, is that if we have people working there remotely, it tends to drag the firm and virtually the entire firm into US tax. So it's quite a big consequence. And so we have a lot of strict policies around colleagues even working on a day or two in the US. And so we're quite rigid about that just because of the US tax implications. The other thing, which for the lawyers within our business, we've also got to be very careful, like all international law firms, around people practicing in jurisdictions where they may not be locally qualified, because amongst other things, that has regulatory implications. It may also have implications for our insurance that we have, our professional insurance that we have in place. So actually people working remotely across borders is actually quite a difficult thing to assess. And it really came home to roost for a lot of international law firms, including us, when the pandemic happened, where understandably a number of people wanted to go back to their home or work in their holiday home. And we ended up taking advice in lots of different jurisdictions about whether we could accommodate that. And it tends to come down to tax and also making sure that we don't find ourselves, or the individual don't find themselves, in breach of local law.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to flip now to Rachel. Rachel, you've been inspiring to many people, and Gabriella would love to know what were the clues from the interview process that the culture of the company was right for you? As we well know, there are far too many companies, especially large companies out there, who talk a good game and then don't deliver. What was it about Pinsent Masons that you knew that they weren't pretending and that it was genuine, that you could work flexibly from when you started the whole process?
Yeah, so I think the first thing for me is that you've got to be upfront yourself. So you've got to be very clear what it is that you want and why you want it, because otherwise it's difficult for them to understand what the driver is and whether that's just a nice to have or an absolute red line from your perspective. So I'd say always be very upfront about what your requirements are, and give them a flavour as to why. My husband's a mechanic. He has zilch flexibility in his life. So I have to do, if something happens, I've got to be the one. And I was very clear on that. So that would be one piece of advice. In terms of what sort of gave it away, if you like, as soon as I mentioned it, you're watching their faces, and there was no shock, there was no shifty looks, there was no sort of scribbling a note down somewhere that kind of says, okay, yeah, fine, we'll sort of deal with that. It was addressed head on. How does that work? There are examples, live examples of the people within the team that do that. So pretty much when I joined, I don't think there wasn't many doing a full-time job. Most people in my team, certainly the females, were working part-time. So real life examples. So that was sort of from the first interview. And then immediately after that interview, when I was sort of said that, we're interested in employing you, I was then invited to meet the team and speak to some of those members of staff that were working in that flexible sort of agile way, so I could get the truth, in inverted commas, about how that actually works. So yeah, those are the things I'd say to me. Be honest yourself, read what they're saying to you, and ask if they're not forthcoming, ask for some real life examples of people that they currently work with in their team that are doing exactly what you require. And if they can't give you any, that's because they don't believe it.
Brilliant, thank you. And we have another question here. Susanna's heard that Pinsent Masons are very keen on 4-day weeks. Could you expand how that works in reality? Is the 5th day a genuine day off where you are left alone? And does that 5th day, can that change? Does it have to be a fixed 5th day off? Could it be a Monday on one day, a Friday on another week? How does that work? Is that back to you, Claire, or?
I think, well, I can answer the question. Normally people have a fixed day, just because from a planning perspective of kind of why they want that day, it does tend to be fixed. But speaking from experience, people that I've had who've done 4 days in my team, if they have needed to change that day, it's about them managing their workload. And to bring in the point on what Claudia's saying in terms of trust, we leave people to do their job as they see fit to do it. And so ideally it works better if it's a fixed day from a planning perspective. It's difficult if you want to book in a meeting in a month's time and you don't know what day that person won't be in. So from a plan from that, it's better to have a fixed day. But if things need to change through circumstances, then that's never a problem. I think I'd probably put the question to maybe back to Rachel or even to Hamad, that, you know, sitting in the groups, you know, are fee earners left alone? Because I certainly don't speak to anybody in my team on their non-working day, and I don't think anybody would necessarily talk to Claudia. But from a lawyer's perspective, are you truly left alone?
I'm conscious that we've got lots of other questions, so I want to ask those questions. Maybe you can scoop that question up, Hamid or Rachel, when you're in your closing sort of statement. I just want to rattle through these because I'm conscious of time. Are there entry-level graduate business operations roles at Pinsent Masons?
Yes, is the short answer.
Yay.
We have another team, Early Talent, who have a whole breadth of business operations apprentice roles. I have an apprentice in my team at the moment, so yes is the short answer to that.
Okay, and I would encourage you to apply and just say that you've been on this event, because that will just help you through the system. What about fully remote working in the UK?
We do have examples of that. Again, it's about being upfront in the very beginning. But yeah, we do have people that are fully remote. People are required to come into the office for different reasons, whether it's for clients or things like that. But we do have people that from the offset do fully remote.
Okay, great. How do you actively put your flexible policies in place? E.g. ensuring that line managers, because line managers can be the nemesis of all this flexible working, supervise the flexible working and the relevant training. How does that happen in reality?
Through support of our HR department and our internal comms, we have a well kind of versed comms team that work to put new policies out and communicate them the best we can, and then through support through our HR team, kind of educating managers throughout the business.
Okay.
Conscious of answering what these quickly.
We knew we were going to be asked this question, Claire, so I'm going to put you on the spot now, but we expected this one. Are you going to be running a returners program, and or are you open to had a career break to apply for individual roles and flag that they are returners, and that you will support them individually if you aren't running a returners program per se?
Okay, about 5 questions in there, Juliet.
I know.
The short answer to, we don't currently have a returners program. What I can say, it is on the roadmap. I have a meeting next week with someone about it, and I know our new managing partner, Laura, is keen to understand what that would look like. So no, we don't currently have one. Yes, it's on the roadmap, and I'm very keen to take it forward. In terms of somebody, again, be open. It's about the talent coming into the business. If somebody's had some time out and they recognize what they want to return to, make us aware of that, and we would have the conversation with that individual. I don't think we can say any fairer than that without knowing the exact circumstances of the person.
Okay, and I would just encourage you to apply. Are there part-time paralegal roles?
We have a whole breadth of paralegal roles. We have a hub that sits within the business. Again, we might not advertise them as part-time, but it might be that person wants to do part-time, and they might want to talk about that when they apply for the role. And that's something that would be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. And this is a lovely question from Idil. How do you network? You're a national firm, and now we're in this crazy world of hybrid working and flexible working. How do you keep your culture and the internal networking between offices and locations so that you are one big Pinsent Masons family and you all feel that you know your fellow colleagues? Hamid, is that one for you?
Or is that PR? I don't know.
Or is that PR? Oh, one of you quickly grab the baton, answer the question.
I think it's a real mix. So we do a lot on Teams. You have to be mindful to some extent about travel, but at the same time, I saw Claire in Birmingham a couple of weeks ago. I know Hamad's often traveling to see certain partners in just different jurisdictions as well. But really, it's just about that communication. I catch up with my team on a daily basis, and it is just, I think it's that sort of open and caring about people's lives outside of work, which really helps bind us.
Okay, and maybe this is one for you, Claire. We have Samina who wants to know more about the financial roles in the organisation. Who do they reply to?
I would suggest just having a look on the website. We have a lot of finance roles at the moment, all sorts, financial planning, billing. I would just recommend going and have a look at the roles. But if they want to email careers specifically, it'll go over to the advisor that deals with finance as a group.
Okay. I'm going to have to call time. We've gone over the time. I think this has been a phenomenally informative and really open and authentic a session. I having known Pinsent Masons for quite a while now, ladies and gentlemen, I just cannot encourage you enough that if you feel and think that this is a company for you, just apply and have the conversation, because I can vouch for everything they're saying. They will welcome you with open arms to be your authentic self at this organisation. So just to wrap it all up, quick fire, starting from Claire, going for Rachel to Hamid to Claudia, what's the one word or the one piece of advice that you would give to the wider 2 to 3 days community audience about what makes you such a special organisation? Claire.
It has to be supportive. The opportunities I've had and where I've got to is because I've been supported with everything I've done.
Okay, Hamid.
We care.
You care.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. Rachel.
One Pinsent Masons, so everybody works together across the globe and internally.
Brilliant. And Claudia?
Transparency and communication. I think talk to everybody about how you honestly feel, because that they respond well to it.
Brilliant. And I think that's what they call a wrap. We're going to end here. Thank you very much for joining us today. Benven, who will wave in a minute, she will send out the recording to everybody. We're in the midst of recording some spotlight series with individual real role models, and the jobs are all on our site, and there are blogs coming as well to really bring to life what it's like to work for Pinsent Masons. And if you've got any questions that you want to ask me, that you want me to forward on, then Juliet at 2to3days.com, you know where to find me. Have a wonderful day, everybody.